Wrestling fans, now you too can look as cool as Monty and the Pharaoh by wearing the official Monty and the Pharaoh sunglasses at night for $8.99 each. That's only $8.99 each. Now available at montyandthepharaoh.com. We know what you're thinking. Did they fire off 6 fascinating points of interest or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all the excitement of watching and listening to Long Island's #1 wrestling podcast, I've actually forgotten myself. But being this is the Monty and the Pharaoh from Indie Music Studios in Ronkonkoma, and the fact that they were talking to yet another champion wrestling star, one of the most powerful and talented performers from the wrestling franchise, and not to forget well-informed and provocative interview questions asked and answered. It was such an interesting and entertaining hour, the questions nearly blew your head clean off. Now you've got to ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Do ya, punk?
What? Yeah. No, I'm behaving myself. No, I'm not playing in abandoned buildings. What? Again? Now, I suppose you had those people follow me again. Fine. Hey, this is Jimmy Farrow from Monty and the Pharaoh, and I want to thank all our subscribers. We have now passed 14,000 on our YouTube channel. But I want to ask our subscribers to take the next step for us and become a full-fledged member of Monty and the Pharaoh. Yeah, that's right, folks. There's 3 different levels to choose from. There's free shirts. There's free autographs. Just check it out and become a member of Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh. Later.
Welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh, filmed out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, Long Island. For round 2, we've got probably one of the most important icons in the history of professional wrestling in studio, which I've been looking forward to. Matt, are you aware who's actually sitting on the couch right now? Do you even have a clue, young man?
I do not.
You don't?
I don't.
Well, you're going to have to educate them. That's for sure. This may be one of the most influential women of the history of this sport that everybody loves and listens to. So show some respect, young man.
Sit up straight.
Sit up straight. Stand at attention. So, Pharaoh, real quick before we get to our guest, last night I was watching with my wife the Diane Sawyer.
What?
Turpin's sister escaped from torture on a 2020 special yesterday. You know anything about this?
People with your television sets. I don't have a TV.
Well, you read?
Yeah, I try to. What?
So it's these
what happened
these 2
here?
parents that had 13 kids.
13 kids.
13 kids.
Wow, very active. Okay.
Not active. Well, they might have been active, yeah.
Way too active.
But the kids,
way too active.
Kids were chained in the house for 28 years.
They were what?
The oldest. For about 28 years.
28 years?
I think I have it right. Yeah.
Nobody stopped in to check on them, like back from high school or something? Have you seen so-and-so lately? What are you talking
Eventually, one of them escapes and then reports them, and now they're in jail for life.
Oh, very good.
Very good. But the tricky part...
I don't miss television. Go on.
Well, the interesting part about this, if you saw the picture of the father and the mother looks somewhat normal.
Somewhat.
But the father has a bowl haircut. It's
Where
like,
are
so
you
first of all, you never, like rules in the world.
Wait a minute,
you never trust a guy with a bowl haircut.
I thought the Beatles had bowl haircuts. And Mo from the Three Stooges had I trust them all implicitly.
Mo from the Three Stooges?
I trust Mo. Mo's a good man. What's wrong with Mo?
Mo is...
I'm going to kill you later.
The Beatles were smart enough to get out of that. No, this dude, like, carried, like, the whole, like...
Okay, so he's
like,
got
had a bowl haircut. He had, like... Regular hair, then he got old like everybody gets.
What?
And it's like a gray bowl cut.
Okay. Well, what makes the mother normal? Oh, she doesn't.
I said she looked normal.
Okay. All right.
Doesn't necessarily mean she is normal.
Okay. So what was the end result here?
Well, these kids didn't have baths for like years.
Wow.
No baths. Didn't brush their teeth.
Okay.
Didn't know how to really read, but they had a cell phone, which I found very interesting.
Had a cell phone.
They had a cell phone, but I don't think any of them was smart enough to call anybody for help.
How did they know how to use one?
I don't know. It didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Wow.
Strange.
Were they
story.
light sensitive when they came out?
I hate to laugh about it, but it's just like I don't know
where you
goes
get
on
this
in
weirdness.
planet.
This is weirdness,
dude. It was like a 2-hour special. I couldn't stop watching it.
That's interesting.
I think the whole thing was like, what are the kids supposed to do now? If you have no education, no social skills, you don't know how to conduct yourself in public and outside. No one is once the kids were released and they could have freedom, they don't know what to do. They have no social skills. They don't know that they have to pay rent. They don't know that they have to get a job and have money and the whole thing that you'd have like growing up and those skills built up.
Why don't we just give them the $450,000 you're giving those people that are separated from the kids at the border?
But they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know what to do with it, number one. But, yeah, that's so ridiculous.
I know what to do with it. Give it to me.
Right, but who's helping these kids? They were put in foster care.
Wow.
And then once they turned 17 or 18, it was like, okay, have a nice life. And then they had nowhere else to go after foster care. They didn't have a job lined up or housing lined up. It was just kind of like, okay, you're good.
Well, if anybody doesn't know, that's Baby Doll in the studio.
Baby Doll over there.
But, okay, understood. But we're so willing to help people that aren't part of this country. Why can't we help these poor kids?
Illegally came into our country, broke the law to come into our country, and then, here's $500,000, and yet you've got veterans sleeping on the street. Ridiculous.
Amen.
So far, she has not gotten a suspended.
No, interesting story.
I will not get you suspended. I can if you want me to. But...
No, please don't. I said so far she hasn't gotten us suspended. Would you talk to Missy Hyatt? No.
No, I actually got arrested for the first time about a month ago. First time in my whole life I got arrested.
What did you do?
I don't know. I don't think they'll come out, but
it's coming out
we had
now. What do you mean?
Well, because I've got a no contact order, so I don't know how much I can.
Oh, okay.
But we had some neighbors move in, and we're like out in the country, and really nice little area that, it's beautiful where we live. These people moved in, and all of a sudden they start getting animals. And they get a lot of animals for a 1-acre plot of land. They have like donkeys, burros, turkeys, ducks, geese, 15 dogs, 13 people living in a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. And their animals kept getting out. So in August, their donkeys, burros, goats, pigs are walking across my front yard. Now, there's almost an acre and a half between our property. So I get a rope, I round them out, and I take them back over there, and I'm yelling at them to come get their animals, and we argued back and forth, and the woman said, I need a rope. How do you expect me to get my animals if I don't have a rope? Well, I had like a rope in my hand, and I tossed it to her. And so I told them they had a half hour to get their animals off my property, or I was going to come back and shoot everything, and I went back over, and everything was cleaned up, so we were good. So I was talking with my husband, like, what are we going to do about this? Because they don't know where their land is at. They didn't have their land surveyed, so they know exactly where their property lines are. They think that because there's no leash law, they can just, if their animals get out, oh well, my animals got out. And so I went down to the magistrate to see what I should do, and he said that I should get a no contact order, but because it was Sunday, I'd have to go back Monday to go to court. Fine, I'll go back Monday. Well, as I'm leaving the magistrate, my phone rings, and I answer it, and it's the Lenore Police Department, and they were wanting to know where I was, and I told them I'm like right out front of the magistrate's office, and he says, just stay right there. He says, I've got a warrant for your arrest. They've taken it out. Your neighbors have taken it out because you threatened them and you assaulted the woman. Okay, there was 20 of them and one of me, and I'm not. So
well, you are Baby Doll.
And well, okay.
Yes.
I've got another story on that one. That was good.
Yeah.
So I said, I've got my 7-year-old with me. I said, what am I supposed to do if you're going to arrest me? He says, you have nothing on your record. He said, you're one of the few 60-year-old people that I know that has nothing on the record. if we'll do a promise to appear, we'll just have you sign it and then you can go. I said, do you promise? And because I've got Lil Ryder with me, and he said, nope. He says, if we can work it out, he said, that's all we'll have to do. So on that Sunday morning, they arrested me, which I'd signed the paper, and then I had to show up for the assault, which is still ongoing. And then Monday, I went for the no contact order, and then I had to come back the following week to follow up because they had to actually file against the neighbors to let them know that there was a no contact order. So I'm in front of the judge, and I've got all the pictures of all their animals, and I actually shot their dog back in April, and it was just a whole thing. So I'm trying to talk to the judge, and he says, so you shot their dog? And I explained to him that I was like doing laundry, and I heard my turkey in distress like outside the window, and I looked out, and there was this huge dog on my 70-pound turkey. He's just wallowing him and attacking him, and the turkey's trying to get away. So I yelled out, and nothing happened. So I grabbed a pistol, and I went out to the side of the house, and the dog had moved over to one of the dogs and was like nose to nose going to fight with my dog. And my dog's on a chain, so he doesn't have a chance. So I was yelling to go away, get off my property, and dog's not paying attention to me. So I shot twice in the ground, didn't phase anything, so I shot the dog. And I shot it in the paw, and I guess it thought like my dog had attacked it. So now they start fighting, and I'm not going to go up there and separate the dog. So I shot twice, and I hit it, and it ran away. So the judge said, well, where were you standing when you shot the dog? I said, I was standing right next to the wrestling ring. And he said, well, how far away were you from the dogs that were fighting? I said, probably like 30, 35, maybe 40 feet. And he was like, wait, you have a wrestling ring in your backyard? I was like, yes. And now I'm thinking, oh, okay. So you have a wrestling ring? And I said, yes, sir. I said, my husband and I are both professional wrestlers. I said, we have a ring set up in the backyard. Oh, I see. And he says, well, I remember when wrestling was wrestling. And in my mind, I'm going, oh, this is going to go bad. Because everybody starts going in with wrestling is fake, and it's the whole thing. And
if
I
he
thought
fingers you for turning on Dusty Rhodes, you're in big trouble.
So,
Oh my God!
Sorry.
I'm thinking in my head like, oh gosh, this is going to go bad.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I remember like Dusty Rhodes and Tully Blanchard and Ric Flair. And I said, oh yeah. I said, I remember them. And he said, you were a wrestler? And I said, well, I was more of a valet. I said, I didn't wrestle, I was a valet. Oh, you mean like Baby Doll and Miss Elizabeth?
Oh my God!
I said, hello, I'm Baby Doll. Glad to meet you. And he said, well, I can't shake your hand. And I said, okay, I understand. And he got really quiet. And then his hands, he was holding the papers, and his hands like shook. And I'm like out of the corner of my eye, like watching, and he says, I was going to be the fifth horseman. Oh my God. And I was like, I can see that. I agree, you can do that. And he says, I'm going to have to recuse myself from this case. He said, I'd like to help y'all with this situation, but he says, I cannot judge this fairly. He said, you'll have to come back next week. So he signed off, and I had to come back and get another judge. Yeah, but the judge actually says, I was going to be the fifth horseman. And then I came to court the following week.
Well, one second. Are you laughing inside at this point? Like,
the courtroom erupted. It was so funny. And, you have to be in composure. I've been coached, like, by my daughter, because I've never had to go to court except for, like, with traffic tickets and things like that. So I really, okay, what do I do? It's like, okay. So then I came back the following Monday, and I had to do all the paperwork and everything, and that judge had put us on a 90-day, be good, and we'll see what happens. So I'm fuming because I've got all this stuff, what they've done, and they've threatened my life, they've threatened my husband's life, they sent horrible Facebook messages that they're going to kill me and all my chickens in the middle of the night, and yet the judge wants us to be nice for 90 days, so I'm not real happy. The bailiff calls me over there, and he says, remember the judge last week? And I was like, yeah. He says, he wants you to sign this. He says, he can't meet with you because of the case, but could you sign this for him? So he had a picture for me to sign.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
So now I have to go Monday for the no contact order, and I've got all the pictures of their dogs on our property during the past 90 days, and I'm not quite sure what the judge will do, but it's kind of like, just if you've got property, stay on your property. It's just...
It should be simple enough.
Yeah, but in North Carolina, they can have as many animals as they want to on that little 1 acre piece of land. It really looks horrible over there now. They've been burning furniture, and it's it's not a good neighbor. It's not a good part right now.
So let me ask you about your husband. You said your husband's a professional wrestler also. So where did you meet your husband? And
Actually, we met at a wrestling show in Virginia a couple of years ago. It was probably like 2008, 2009. And he was married at the time, and I met him, and we just kind of hung out for that show. And he promotes shows in Hudson, where we live now, and we just texted for a couple of years, just as friends, because I knew he was married, so I'm not going to cross that line or the whole thing, because I'm just not that type of person to begin with, but it's just not appropriate. And we just were talking as friends, and there were things that were happening in his relationship where there was disrespect, and just asking, like, he had bought a car for his wife, and if you buy a car on Friday, you really shouldn't drive it until you get all the registration and the paperwork and everything filled out. So he told him, do not drive this car. I don't have the paperwork for it. I don't have insurance on it. Just leave it until I can get everything taken care of. Well, then he had to leave, and he hadn't been gone, he said, a half hour, and he went around the corner, and there's his son in the bar ditch with the brand new car that's tore up. He's wrecked the car, and Dakota's like waving like, hey, and he just kept driving. He says, I can't believe that they would disrespect me, because as soon as he left, Dakota had asked to borrow the car, and his wife said, yeah, go ahead, nobody will know. After that, he's just told him, don't use a car, so that's, and I told him, I said, wait, I said, your son's growing, you don't have like little kids, and I said, your wife is disrespect. How long are you going to put up with this? You don't have to, you've got probably 40, 50 years left in your life. Why are you going to be miserable? So then he kicked him out. He was just like, I'm not going to have any more of this shit. And he gave him like 6 months to all leave. And in the meantime, the son got a girl pregnant, and which is dumb when you're 19 and you really don't have a job and everything. Right. So we still kept talking, and it was really funny because he had kind of lined it up, because I guess he thought that as soon as everybody left, I was going to move in. And I was just like, well, in my mind, I said, I'm going to give you 6, 8, 10 months to see what you do when you're single. And I forget how it lined up, but I said, dream on, big guy. And he thought it meant it was like a brush off. Right. But he got like another girlfriend, and we're still talking because we're friends, and stuff. And he was in the Harley Davidson parking lot. He had just bought a brand new Harley and was telling me about it. And he says, this could all be yours. And I said, you do know that how you acted was how I was going to act towards you. And I said, I'm not going to move in right as soon as somebody else moves out. And I said, I'm going to give you time to see. Well, I had no idea how you felt. I said, you never asked, and I said, you never asked, you just kind of assumed stuff. And so he's out in the Harley Davidson parking lot crying because he realized, like, oh, okay, I'm really messed up. So, but it all worked out. About 8 months after that, I did move in, and we dated and hung out, for like a year, and then we got married. So we've been married like 5 years, and just really happy, and just everything's great. So it all worked out.
Oh, congratulations.
Super worked out.
Nothing like true love, Farrell.
You don't get like strange phone calls that sound like Tully Blanchard or Rick or any of them, like, what are you doing with this guy? And
no.
None of that?
If you had a picture of my husband,
there's always guys fighting over her. I mean,
he's my husband open carries and is very defensive of me, and
they're not calling.
He's very protective of me and doesn't really approve of me like leaving the state like I'm doing now. And
okay.
He's my wife should be home with me and things, but I like that because he's.
Is he like constantly texting you like, what are you doing right now? What are you doing?
Well, I don't have my phone, but he's probably texted a couple of times. He trusts me, but he just doesn't like what.
I got you.
He knows guys, and he knows how guys are in the business, and
sure.
Things happen, and then you have to explain it.
And then you got the crazy wrestling fans, right?
Right.
That's
and he knows that guys will come knock on the door and the things, and he just doesn't want that happening, because he knows that it's uncomfortable for me and it's not appropriate, that it would be happening. So I completely understand where he's coming from, but he also has to know that I've got a reputation, and I especially have a reputation over the past 30 years of, I mean, I raised my 2 daughters by myself. I've worked several, like, really hard jobs to show them that, like, get an education so that you don't have to do this. And I don't think you'll ever hear anybody saying a bad thing about me, you know, and I want that reputation, and I'm not going to ruin it for anything.
Well, that's great. We'll be right back after this commercial break with can we call you the godmother of professional wrestling? Would that be fair? Instead of the godfather?
The godmother?
Well, yeah, can't call a godfather.
Doesn't feel so mafioso to tell
No,
you the truth.
that's I'm not sure. I'm just a perfect 10.
Yeah, just a perfect
I'm
10.
your perfect 10. My baby doll.
There you go. We'll be right back with the perfect 10.
We shall return.
And Nitro's Garage for all your automotive needs. Call 646-675-2349. That's 646-675-2349. For all your automotive needs, Nitro's Garage. Ask for Jack.
Do you treat your dog as part of the family? Well, so do we. So why not celebrate your pup's birthday with the ultimate party box? Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Party Pup Info, and let us make your pup's party or any celebration perfection.
Elm Logistics for all your logistic needs. Call 631-299-3595. That's 631-299-3595. Elm Global Logistics. Pride, performance, and partnerships.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monty DeFaro, seen here out of Indie Music TV out of Ronkonkoma, New York, where we have the honor of having the perfect 10 in studio, Baby Doll. And again, we were WWE guys.
Yeah.
So when you're big and high on our list, like she is,
Yeah.
you know she made a difference in this industry.
For sure.
You know, you mentioned Elizabeth Hewitt. You were talking about the judge who mentioned you and the same. We wanted to recognize her birthday, but I don't know. Did you ever run into her at all? Because you guys are almost synonymous, right? You know, you guys are at the top valets, I think, in this
I
industry.
came out about 8 months, maybe 10 months before she did, before she made an appearance. So I can, because I was before, I think Sunshine was the only one that was before me, and then I came along, and then Elizabeth, and then Missy, and then Elizabeth. So I set the stage. I set the bar up. I set it high.
Being that you were in you were in WCCW, and then you were in the NWA, did you ever wish you would have come up here and really grab the brass ring and make some real solid money in this industry?
I made some really solid money when I was with Crockett. I mean, it wasn't like super fantastic like what they were paying WWE, but I mean, I was making really good money because I always worked with like the top guys. I had actually trained with Nelson Royal in his one of his barns. He had a wrestling ring set up, and Rockin' Robin, who's my sister-in-law, and I trained with him over the summer. I had a tryout with Leilani Kai. I didn't know it was a tryout. I thought, because we were just friends, they were like, hey, you've been training with Nelson Royal. Why don't you just get in the ring with Leilani and see how you do? Just take some bumps. Well, I had no idea that was my WWE tryout, so I'm in there just kind of goofing. And, you know, it's different when you know you have a tryout and when you're just going in there and taking bumps. So I had no idea. But then Robin tried out right after that, and she knew it was a tryout, so she got it, which is perfectly okay with me. I mean, she had such awesome matches with Sherry. They worked so well together, and she got to travel and went to Paris and the whole thing, so it all worked out. I mean, if I'd gone up there, they probably would have tried to do something cartoonish with me because I'm a big girl. I'm almost 6 foot tall and like big and athletic, and I like the reputation. I like the career that I had. I like that I worked with the absolute best of the best. There was I don't think that you can look at this and go, oh, she missed this spot or this wasn't appropriate for her to do. Everything that I did, it made sense. It told a story. I have no regrets at all. None.
Did you get any resentment from some of the guys? Because you were making more cash than a lot of the guys. I mean, I remember weren't you married to Sam at the time, Sam Houston?
Yes.
And Sam was down at the bottom of the card and you were at the top of the card. Was there any friction there, you know?
There's probably more friction with Sam because he didn't, because I was making, really good money. But I don't know of anybody that was like, it's not appropriate for her to be here. I can't believe that she's making the money that she did, because what I was doing was actually drawing crowds, and I had a lot of heat. I mean, I'll look back at some of those crowds. When Dusty slapped me that first time, I know that Dusty was worried that it would turn him. He had to have to be careful with this, because I'm going to hit you. And he says, it may turn me heel. He said, we're going to have to see what happens. And when you look at that crowd, whenever he hits me, the women stand up and are like, hit her again, hit her again. And the cigarettes are hanging out of their mouth, and they've got the drinks, and it's just like, oh my gosh. I can't believe that those people hated me so bad, and they didn't know who I was by any means. And Baby Doll's complete 180 of who I am. So it was scary, but then it was fun to make people that mad. So.
Well, you did a great job, because I got to tell you the truth. I hated Baby Doll. I literally hated Baby Doll. You did Dark Side of the Ring, and we're not really going to talk about that, right? But Sam was your ex-husband.
He is my ex-husband.
Well,
he was my husband.
Right. So, how's your relationship with him now? And like, when you see him in signings, is that difficult, or is it just whatever? It's just business as usual.
We divorced in '94. I had found out that he had cheated on me whenever I was pregnant with our oldest daughter. I tried to I had left him right after Micah was born, and then tried to get back together. I got pregnant with my youngest daughter. We were living in Baton Rouge at the time, and for whatever reason, he called me and he said, "Hey, Nick, I need to talk to you." And so, go in there, bebopping in there, everybody's happy, and he said, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to be married anymore. I want to be the life of the party. And he handed me $100 and a plane ticket, and I had to go back to Lubbock. I was pregnant. I had a 1-year-old on my hip. I had $100, and that was it.
Oh, my God.
And he proceeded to not pay child support, not really come and see the girls. And when he did come see the girls, he'd be like really drunk, and it was not good. And my dad actually one time had Sam had shown up for a birthday party or something, and we had told him, no, don't show up. This is, you're not going to just show up for parties and birthdays and Christmas. You're not going to be that type of dad. And sure enough, he's inappropriate. He showed up. So I called my dad. I was like, Sam just pulled up. What do I do? He said, stay in the house. I'll be right there. And my dad showed up, and he had a .45, and he pointed at Sam, and I couldn't hear what was saying, and you could see Sam kind of like, okay, and he backed up and he left. And we didn't see him for 11 years after that. He never called the girls. He never came by, nothing. He was gone. And in that time, he totaled like 7 cars in 3 years. He had a bunch of DUIs. He went here and there and went to Japan a couple of times and never sent money over to us. And it was really hard for probably about 5 years. And there was a point in my life where I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I said, I am not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to let that man have this much control over my life. I'm not going to feel this way. And ever since then, he can do whatever he wants to do, and I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And he did 5 years in jail for DUIs, and he's gotten remarried now, and his wife seems to be a really nice lady. And I don't hold any grudges. My husband now, Chad, is just like exes are exes for a reason, and he kind of thinks that we should be like totally separated and apart and the whole thing, but it doesn't bother me. Sam can do whatever he wants to, and good for him.
I got to get this in. Is this the same Sam that was a Facebook friend of ours that became like this religious dude and unfriended us or something because our show was too? Is
I
that
guess,
the same?
I don't know.
Didn't he become
Probably
like,
so. And then
he's a representative of the high and mighty now, right? He sounds like it from the resume you just gave me. Not. Is this the same guy?
I guess.
I'm sorry. I hate to be this way, but that guy sucks. Anyway.
Well, there's Sam, the godly man, and then there's Sam that you see behind the curtain, and he'll be cursing and smoking and doing all this stuff, and then say that, well, I've got to go to church since I'm doing this today. But that's not how church works.
Very interesting.
I mean, we all make mistakes, and God understands that, but God also understands that when you intentionally do bad things and think that you're going to get away with it by praying later, that's not how it works.
WB says, in fairness, Sam has alcohol issues.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So does he get a pass because of his alcohol issues?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I went to a lot of Al-Anon meetings after, because my dad was an alcoholic, and he had 35 years sober. He had all the coins, and he sponsored a lot of people. And alcoholism can only go so far, but when you know you have a problem, and you know that your behavior has affected people and is affecting people, then you have to change that behavior. But I can't change Sam. I can only be in charge of myself. I am the only one that's in charge of me. And it took a long time to figure that out, that whatever he did should not have a difference in my life. I'm the difference in my life. So, but if Sam's happy, then good for him. I don't care.
So is it fair to say, though, that you gave up your career for Sam, right?
I gave up my career because I was pregnant,
right?
And I knew that if I had children, then I couldn't be a mom and I couldn't be baby doll at the same time. The first year that I worked with Tully, I only had 15 days off the whole year.
Wow.
So I was either going to be a really good mom or I was going to be baby doll, and I couldn't be a really good mom and be baby doll. So I wanted to be the Sunday Delight mom. I wanted to be the mom that all the kids came over the house and had snacks and treats. And I am a really good mom. So, and I'm proud of that. Out of everything I've done, and I've done some really cool stuff.
Right.
My kids are it.
So can you tell us about your daughters?
I have two. I have Micah Tyler and Michaela Joy. Micah is 30 and Michaela just turned 29. Smart girls, pretty girls, just, oh my gosh, you're going to make me cry. Like I said, I've done a lot of stuff, but man, God blessed me with them. They really did. And it was just their accomplishments. I love it that they come home from school and go, look, Mom, what I did. I loved it when we had thunderstorms in Lubbock and we'd go out and collect snails and they'd have the big snails all over their arms. They're just the joy of my life, and I'm so blessed.
And you should be very proud of yourself for what you went through and how you took care of your children. I mean, look, again, our children are the most important thing, but you gave up a lot. Again, you are an icon.
But I gained so much. It's not like I gave out. It's kind of like...
I'm not saying it's a mistake. All I'm saying is understand what you have done.
Right.
And, if I could fairly say this, I say, shame on Sam. It's fine. Maybe he didn't want to be married anymore, but you don't walk away from your kids.
It was actually a blessing that he left, because in the turmoil that goes around with alcoholism and everything, it's a good thing that my girls didn't see that. It's a good thing that he didn't stick around, because I didn't have to give him up every other weekend and then be worried, okay, is he drinking with them, or is he in the car with them when he's drinking? Where are they at? I didn't have the every other Christmas and every other holiday having to, that worry of what was going on. It was just recently that I realized that it was actually very fortunate that he was not in our life, because it could have been horrible. There's one thing between being hard and then being horrible, and that could have been a tragedy. Because what if he had a wreck and killed my kids? No, it was a good thing. He went and did what he wanted to do, and I got to have one of the best lives ever.
Timing is everything. Do you think that Baby Doll could have even existed in today's landscape, the way society is, considering how Baby Doll was portrayed back in the 80s? Could you even do these things with a woman being struck or being fought over almost as if she's just an object at times from these beastly cavemen? You know, do you think that?
Well, you had the 80s where you had like myself and Missy and the thing. We had like our storylines here, and it worked out perfectly. And then it graduated to ECW, like with Francine and the whole thing, and it just everything took its step. I mean, I was at the right place at the right time, and Dusty had my character to work with, and he loved like the development of it. So. No, it was perfect for that time, for that like 2 or 3 years that I got to work. That it was just perfect.
Do you feel like your character has made women's wrestling what it is today?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was a stepping stone. It was just a graduation of what was going to come next.
And which, women's wrestling has taken, I mean, on a personal basis, I enjoy women's wrestling much more than I do the men's wrestling,
right.
for sure.
Well, and then when you look, like my mom wrestled in the 50s. So, and when you think that, women in the 50s, she was one of the first ones to actually own her car and be able to travel across the country and had her own money and her own career, and that was like really unheard of in the like the 50s. I mean, a lot of women were starting to develop into that, but the freedom and the power that you have as a woman, to have those things in your own place to live and be able to travel and come and go as you wanted to, that was pretty cool when you look back. That was my mom, and she was so beautiful. She won like Marilyn Monroe look-alike contest, and very, very athletic. I've got a picture of her where she's got Jack Dempsey on her shoulders and is carrying them. And I had some big shoes to fill up, considering her career also.
Tully Blanchard slaps you right in the face on television. I still, to this day, I mean, I watch this thing and it still seems as real as ever. When they came, and by the way, David Crockett's reaction during the whole thing.
Well, did he even know what was going on there? Or did you guys hide that from him? Because that reaction is
really
gold.
None of that. Like,
well, tell us about the day when you were approached about this behind the scenes. What was your reaction? Like, wow, this is going to really happen? I mean,
well, actually, we didn't really know. We knew that. They had built it up to where Tully and I we'd been together for right at a year. We'd kind of done everything we were going to do. The plan was that I was going to go with Buddy Landell, and Landell was going to work a program with Ric Flair.
Okay.
But Buddy decided to do a bunch of cocaine instead and just
disappeared.
This guy.
So it's another thing that worked in my favor, because that could have been a complete disaster.
Sure.
So they're going to go over it, and Dusty thought, well, if we're not going to go this way, let's do the 180, and I'm going to put Doll with me. And
let me put myself over. I got a better idea.
But it worked out. It worked out, though.
Yeah.
So we were kind of going over, like kind of the idea of what we were going to go through, and we had the plane ticket to Puerto Rico, and I had been gone for a little bit, and JJ, they were going to put JJ with Tully, so everything we had the premise of the promo going on, but everything that we talked about, there was no script, there was no going over it, there was no pre-rehearsal. The whole thing, it happened. So there was no lineup. Magic.
All JJ had to do was admit that they gave it a ticket, and so
right. And we went from there. And when you listen to the tone of my voice, I actually sound like someone that's in a relationship defending themselves over something that she didn't do and had nothing and had no clue of what was going on. It's just like, you gave me the ticket where you didn't expect me to go to Puerto Rico if you gave me the
right.
So it worked out. It truly did.
How about when you grabbed Dusty's leg?
That was all me.
Was that just improv? Because that's amazing. You're wrapping around his leg like, oh, protect me, oh mighty warrior.
The whole
mighty
thing,
warrior
the
with
whole
the big
thing
belly.
From that, Dusty had said he wanted to be like King Kong and Fay Ray.
Yeah.
So I thought that
was.
was a perfect, Fay Ray would hold on to King Kong, protecting them from the horrible airplanes and the whole thing. So, yeah.
Wow.
The whole was kind of crazy when I think about it. And looking at wrestling now, because now whenever they do promos, they have a script, and they have to follow the script. Basically, they told us a town and what time we were going to be there and our opponent, and whatever we did at that time. There was no, okay, we're going to say this, and this is what we want you to get over. There was nothing like that. We just had the basic idea, and we went down that path.
Why do you think they're so afraid today to let the wrestlers breathe and have that freedom of creativity on the fly. Why?
Because sometimes there's some really bad promos,
Okay.
and they just want to cover their bases. They want everything to be 100% instead of 95%.
But then on the other hand, you have they got SummerSlam tomorrow, and I think Lynch and Charlotte are gonna have at it. They're gonna be, and I mean that's a hot.
Oh, and I had horrible promos too, so I can see where they would want to do that. So, I mean, you want 100%, and you don't want to take a chance on things, and they want the control over it, and they've got a lot of money going into that character. So,
How about Ric Flair? Did you ever see him give a bad promo? Because his stuff wasn't scripted.
no, 100% all the time. Now, he basically had the same promo. He had like probably 4 different promos that he did, and kind of went
funny.
That is funny.
different
That's funny.
directions. But they were all good. They
Right.
were all good.
Right.
What's it like? I'm giving them promo 1 tonight. I mean, that's.
I think it just happened. I was always afraid, like with Dusty, because I knew what promo Tully was going to do, because Tully was very straightforward and just business. Dusty would hint at the sexual stuff sometimes, and okay, where are we going with this? And
Right.
and Flair especially, I was like, oh my gosh, please don't say anything that's going to embarrass my mother, because. And then, like with my character, it almost made it seem like I was sleeping with everybody, and I was the property of everybody.
Well, that was the.
I know, and then for me, I went to the hotel and hid and locked the door because I knew I had to drive 400 miles the next day.
Right.
So I knew I had to be sober, and if I drank, then I wasn't like pretty the next day. So
Now, so how did you handle that? Because they,
You didn't
obviously.
party with the boys, huh?
I would go down and maybe have 1, maybe 2 drinks, and then it would be like, "Where's Baby Doll? Where did Doll go?" And I would vaporize, and then I would check in under different names. Jamie Bond, off the James Bond, I
Nice.
would
Jamie
do Jamie
Bond.
Bond to
There you
check
go.
in under, because you could check in under different names at that time. And
Interesting.
I would hide, and there were a couple of times that Flair actually knocked on the door and was like, "Hey, Doll, come out and play," and you look through the peephole, and you could tell like he's naked. You can't really see anything, but you can see like the blur. And
Right.
like, I am not going out there for nothing.
So speaking of that, Dark Side of the Ring, they talk about that plane ride from hell and what happened with those stewardess. What was your feelings about that whole thing?
Okay.
Come on now, don't clam up now.
No, I'm not.
She's getting the shotgun. She's cleaning it.
She's
What are you
cleaning
talking
the-
about?
the way that women acted when the guys came to the building or the hotels, they should do a Dark Side of the Ring on that, because
Interesting.
the women were horrible. Now, how is a guy not supposed to act
Right.
like the whole thing if that's the way he's been encouraged to do for the past 20 years, and nobody has said no?
Right.
I don't. What sexual assault charges has Flair got against him?
No, nothing.
Nothing.
Right.
But when has anybody said, "Oh, that's inappropriate"? Never. So this one woman who got paid off for supposedly what happened is all of a sudden offended for something that happened like in 2002. Why hasn't she said anything since then?
Sure.
Like all of a sudden you get a camera in her face and it's like, "Oh, I can't believe this happened to me." You were right there.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure that inappropriate things happened, but I don't think that it was as bad as what they made it seem. Thank God, I can swear on a Bible to this day, I never saw Ric Flair naked. So, I mean, if it's something's happening in front of you that you don't want to happen, turn around and go the other way. Mm-hmm. Don't go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe he's doing this," and "Oh, ha ha ha, oh, don't do that."
So the
Give me
wrestling
a break.
ring rats are really no different than the rock and roll.
Oh, they were horrible.
Groupies.
We were in, I believe it was Jacksonville, Florida. I remember it was Florida. And Flair, we're actually at the bar, like standing at the bar. And Flair's got 6, 7 beautiful girls around him, and they're drinking
6
and
or
having.
7. Not 1 or 2.
When Flair says that there were 20,000 women, I could honestly say that the time span that I saw, probably true.
Wow.
So he's got like the girls all around him, and they're drinking and having fun. Well, this absolutely gorgeous, I mean, like model, the whole thing, walks in the bar, and it's like all the lights turn on her, the smoke fades, the whole thing, and she saunters up to Flair. She looks at him, and she opens her shirt up. She said, "You like these?"
Just open it up.
Yep, just right there, tatas, the whole thing, and they were beautiful, and I'm like, oh my God. And Flair says, "I'll see y'all later," and dipped with her, and that was it. So, yeah, I mean, it was, women would actually lay down in front of him. like they were next.
So I guess if you get cake all the time, you want cake all the time, right?
Yeah. Who's going to say no? And
Spells that
chocolate
out.
cake is chocolate cake.
Skywalker 567 is asking, are you willing to disclose at the height of your fame your annual salary?
Ooh, wow.
I think the best was 88,000.
Okay.
It's just not bad. That's good.
Not bad, considering I didn't take a bump.
Damn straight, yeah.
I'll
I
take
drove.
that now. What are you
The
talking
only
about?
problem was that they put me with Tully and Flair, and I had to stay at the same place as they did. But I had my room by myself. Now Tully might bunk up with Arn, and then Flair had the suite, which was getting picked up by Crockett. So I was running with the big boys, but I wasn't making big boy money. So that would be my only.
You were
complaint.
such a catalyst. Did you not feel comfortable about saying, hey, I should be getting some more money here?
Okay, when you're making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a week, you're going to go, oh, this isn't enough. They could find another girl. You know what I'm saying? I had that, like, if I'm not, what am I going to complain about? You know?
Right. I get it.
It's I'm living the dream life. I knew this wasn't going to be my career, although, you know, when I look at it, it could have been my career, but I never saw anything beyond that. I was having a good time. I could shop and go do stuff as much as I wanted to. I got the plane rides. I got get to ride on the private plane. I don't think it would have been appropriate for me to say, oh, this isn't enough. But I look back, I probably could have, but I also would have lost my job because I wasn't appreciative of what they were giving me.
You're a beautiful, intelligent woman. You're with probably the hottest faction in the South at the time. Did they ever come on to you, any of them?
Oh,
And how were you able to, not fearing turning them down, like, because you just said afraid for your job, like you're happy with your money.
Right.
Do you feel the pressure like, oh man, I better sleep with Tully because
well,
maybe
now
he'll get rid of
Tully
me?
and I had the agreement on the very first, when we did the video where I come in on the Learjet and he meets me in the limo, we actually had the talk of like, this is it. This is business. It's not going to go any further. We have to do this because if it goes any other way, it'll destroy us and it'll destroy what's happening. And Tully was like, we're going to make some really good money. We need to keep it this way. Plus, Tully had a lot of girls. I mean, when they say Flair had 20,000, Tully had just as many. And, you know, he didn't have a girlfriend at the time. And that would have been so inappropriate and it didn't work. And I didn't want to do anything that would embarrass my family because my dad had the promotion back in Lubbock. He had like a stellar reputation, was a very good businessman. All the guys talked very favorably of him. I didn't want to be that girl that everybody knew. Plus, if I slept with one guy, then I'd have to go to another and then the other. I just didn't.
Flair didn't attempt it? I mean, Flair's, you know.
Oh, Flair knocked on the door a couple, but I
bet.
just never answered the
Just
door.
never answered.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So you're
Smart.
you're
Very
close
smart.
with Tully. Did you feel like his drugs were getting out of control? And if they were,
See,
did you
Tully
try to
really
say
didn't
something?
do that much. When at that time we were just so busy. I mean, yeah, he might have done a little bit, you know, there, and then he'd go look okay, is it? And he might have a little bit of cocaine in his chest.
Get that out of here.
That furry chest there.
That's
But
funny.
you know,
That's talcum powder.
It was
Talcum powder.
it was more drinking, I think, than anything else, and it. Like I never saw Flair do anything, but he drank a lot of coffee and a lot of vodka, and you know some of the guys did stuff, but I smoked a lot of pot, so I wasn't in that crowd.
Right.
See? The nice, safe pot crowd. I
is-
told you.
It
doesn't listen to me.
Is
Told
pot legal now in Carolinas?
No.
Why not? What's wrong with
Because
these?
we've got backwards mayor.
Yeah, very backwards.
Now we have a lot of moonshine where I'm at. Now, if you want some
Oh,
moonshine, I can get you some
okay.
moonshine.
All right,
All
so
right.
now
Yeah,
you're
that
gonna
works.
have to
All right.
weigh in on this,
I
buddy.
like that.
Kyle Rittenhouse found not guilty.
Right.
Big news in the world today. What does Baby Doll have to say about this situation?
He never should have been prosecuted in the first place. The mainstream media, like CNN and MSNBC, their lies stoked the fires. If they had actually taken the actual story of what had happened and reported that, none of this would have happened. They threw it all out. I mean, they said that his mother took him across state lines. She didn't take him across state lines. She was a nurse's aide in a nursing home, had worked a 16-hour shift, and was sleeping at the time when all of this had happened. Kyle is not a white supremacist. He's a lifeguard that felt so compelled to defend the city that his dad and his grandmother and the town that he worked in from being literally burned down by rioters and looters. He felt it was his place to go help people and save the town. The rifle that he was carrying was legal. They didn't even bother to measure the rifle until the second to the last day of the trial, and then they bring it out that, oh, by the way, the rifle he was carrying was completely legal. We're dropping all these charges. If the lies hadn't been told to fuel all this, none of this would happen. And then Biden coming out calling him a white supremacist. President Biden, you need to apologize to that boy. If that's the least thing that you do, you need to apologize to Kyle Rittenhouse for calling him a white supremacist just because they led you by the hand to say this. That was wrong, and you know it's wrong.
I don't think we're going to get suspended with that either.
I think that's a fair
and Kyle
statement.
Rittenhouse should sue him for defamation. Biden was a private citizen at the time. Biden cannot hide behind the presidency. Rittenhouse needs to sue all of them for defamation.
Yeah, how about taking CNN to a trial?
Do that too. The Joy Reid and the MSNBC. MSNBC actually had reporters following the jurors to their cars, following the bus. Jury intimidation, if anything, and that's a felony.
CNN's gone paparazzi on them.
You ain't kidding.
Yeah, what is that?
So forgive me for this, Davio. I don't know this question, so I couldn't even. Davio B says you have two answers. Answer two wrestling secrets. Who were the James boys, and what was in the envelope? Dusty didn't show. Forgive me. I don't. You probably know
the James boys were Sam Houston and Tony Zane, and I have the envelope. I actually have the envelope that Larry Zbyszko and I were going to do the angle with Dusty with. I kept it all this time. I actually found it a couple of years ago when I was going through some boxes. I asked Dusty, what should I tell people? Because I get asked a question all the time. And Dusty said, never tell them, baby. He said, because if you tell them, they'll never ask you again. He said, never tell them. So I will never tell them. I will never tell them.
I don't think we're going to find that.
What did Dusty Rhodes mean to you?
Oh my gosh. Dusty is the reason why I was successful. Dusty used my character. He never went, he went just close enough to the edge on a lot of the stuff that we did, just to where it was so cool, but it never went too far. Like riding around on the horse, like going on Floyd, and then riding off to Hawaii, and then he shot the promo about the $5,000 with men and booze and various other, it was so cool. The best thing that I can say about Dusty is his wife came up to me a couple of years ago. We were at a fan fest, and they were giving Dusty an award, and she appeared for him. And she took me to the side, and she said, I need to talk to you. I was like, okay. And she said, I just wanted to tell you that you were Dusty's favorite, that he absolutely loved you. But I wanted to let you know that you were his favorite. And for a wife to come up and say that to me, that was good.
Any thoughts on China, considering a lot of people say that you were actually the reason why we ever had a China?
Tragic. It was just the people that she loved and trusted the most absolutely shit on her when she absolutely needed them. They completely turned their backs on them, and that was so sad. And you can see that she tried to do everything that they wanted her to do, and it wasn't enough. And that was so sad, because no matter what she did, it was just never enough.
When you see what happened to her, do you consider yourself somewhat fortunate, smart, or both to get through this business in one piece?
Another is a blessing. Like the deal, if I'd gone with Landell, what could have happened with that? Or if my time had been longer with Flair, what could have done with that? I was just so lucky and so fortunate that I made really good decisions. And it's just sad the way that it went with her. It really did, because she just trusted some people that should have done her a lot better than what they did. If you're going to fool around with someone, don't tape it and then release it. That's the shittiest thing that you can do. That is so awful. You don't do that.
Tell me about your parents. What did they mean to you?
Oh my gosh. I had the best parents ever. It was, I love professional wrestling, and I'm so lucky that my parents were professional wrestlers. I remember like waiting for the cable to get installed in Lubbock so that I could watch Georgia Championship Wrestling. I like traveling up to Minnesota and Georgia and checking out the TV guys to see the wrestling because I wanted to see different wrestlers. My mom, very athletic. She was very involved in my brothers and myself and our schoolwork and our growing up. And my dad, promoted wrestling, so I got to see him on TV every weekend doing the promos and setting up the ring and having events and everything. It was kind of like having movie stars for parents in little bitty Lubbock, Texas. They were the absolute best. My dad taught me how to take care of myself and to shoot and not take bullshit from anybody and to be a good person. He actually instilled in it that you will be a good person.
Wow. I got to get my only Mark question is I'm a huge
question.
Yeah, I'm a Kerry Von Erich fan. Mm-hmm. What were the Von Erichs like? What was working for Fritz, and how was Kevin?
Oh my gosh, Kevin, I love it because whenever they'd come to Lubbock, the next day I would pick him up and we'd go to the gym. And so it was pretty cool, like being a high school girl and walking in with the Von Erichs because that was so cool.
That's got to be pretty cool.
And then we go play racquetball, and I would whip those boys because I was a good racquetball player. And they couldn't believe that a girl was beating them. And to this day, Kevin puts me over as like he told my daughters, he says, you don't realize how good of an athlete your mom was at that time. He says, I still don't believe that she beat us in racquetball. Carrie actually helped me with discus, so I broke my high school record of throwing discus. Carrie was at a show, I believe it was in La Mesa, and we're kind of standing in the back, and there's this little girl running back and forth, and she's maybe 9, 10, 11 years old, and she's got long hair, but it's like really messed up because she's been playing so long, her hair's got a knot. And Carrie's been brushing his hair, and he called her over, and he said, hey, come here. And the girl's like, he said, come here. He said, turn around. And so she turns around, and he actually like brushes her hair out. Just so soft and so gentle. And she's standing there like, and I think she's more afraid like he's going to pull her hair and like it's going to hurt, but just the softness and the gentleness that he had with that little girl. And then he handed the brush to her, and he said, here, take care of your hair. Boys like it when girls have nice hair. And she ran away, and it was those guys were so down to earth and just such good kids, and it's just a shame that they're not with us now. It is. It's just a tragedy.
Never any signs? Never could see any signs? I mean, the tragic ends to some of the guys in the family? Or
not then. I mean, their dad pushed them, but they also had 5 sons that looked like Greek gods, and there was so much potential in them. Fritz only wanted the very best for those boys.
Yeah.
And he just went too far. He just pushed it. Like what you say, there's that thin line, and Fritz went over that line, and then there was no going back. It wasn't. So.
All right, so we're almost out of time. We're going to hit you with something called the Pharaoh's Final Question.
What?
Unscripted.
Okay.
And you better not blow this one, man, because this is an icon. This is your opportunity, brother.
Shoot, I thought we were going to talk politics and everything else, and we just talked wrestling the whole time.
Oh, we did not, did we? Really?
We just did one Rittenhouse question. That was it. We can't talk about how horrible the President Biden was compared to Trump.
Before we get to
trying not to get suspended here, would you please?
So interesting enough. Let's talk about Sleepy. Okay. Let's talk about Sleepy Joe.
Sleepy Joe, oh boy, here we
go.
Such
an embarrassment. And who's a racist? I mean, oh my God.
Why do you think? First of all, do you think Donald Trump lost the election? And
I would like to see them prove those 80 million votes that Biden got. I want to see 80 million legitimate votes, and then I'll say, okay, we're good. They can't produce 80 million legitimate votes. They changed the voting laws. They changed the rules, and how you cannot have 24-hour voting where you just pull up and drop off a ballot and consider that legitimate when they couldn't verify the votes. Because they couldn't question the legitimacy of it, otherwise you were called a racist and whatever. There was no questioning anything, so it's shady. It was shady.
So what is the difference today in the world compared to when you were growing up? What do you think has gone wrong in this country?
Some very bad people are in charge of a very good country.
Is it any different from the 80s?
Well, we had Reagan back then. I mean, everybody was like gung-ho. You had the flags flying. We were proud of our president. Now you're a racist and you're a white supremacist if you fly an American flag out front of your house. That's wrong. You know, that's just what happened to being a patriot and being proud of your country. You know, it's something has happened really, and it's just a small faction of the people that are trying to be in charge of telling us what to do. And it's I should be perfectly okay to support a candidate and our president like President Trump, but yet I was called every name in the book because he did cut our taxes and he did lower our fuel costs and he made it a really good time in our country and my girls saw it too, where, you know, their money went further and, you know, gas went down to like way below $2 a gallon for a long time because Trump knew that it was important to have that energy self-sufficiency and cutting our taxes so that I could spend my husband's money instead of the government spending my husband's money.
But are you kind of angry with President Trump at all? Because I felt like, you know, you mentioned Ronald Reagan, who to me was the greatest president of all time. Do you think he just should have calmed down on social media once he won the presidency and he just could have done business and kind of not turn people against him with his commentary?
But then he would have become somebody that he wasn't. I mean, Trump was 100%, whether you liked it or not, and some of the things that he said were inappropriate, but that was him, and you knew that what he was saying and what he was sending out on Twitter was his own thoughts. It's not like Biden now. You know that Biden's not sending out those tweets.
Right.
Biden's not doing anything for himself except for walking in front of the podium and reading some script that they said because, for example, when they had the Rittenhouse verdict, he came out and he said the jury has given their verdict. The court systems work. We have to let it work. Okay? But then 20 minutes later, they're sending out another statement that's a complete thing of like, complete opposite of just what he said.
Right.
So Trump was 100%. And to say that Trump was a Russian spy, oh my God. Trump would have shown up in the White House with black sunglasses and a dark suit and would have been telling everybody that he was a Russian spy. There's no way he could have told, you know, not told anybody. And then believing it in the first place, please. You know, it was just complete lies. And that hurt his presidency from the very start because no one wanted to support him because everyone was lying. And they knew that they were lying, that he was a Russian spy and an agent for Russia, when in fact he cost Putin billions of dollars by cutting down the pipelines and everything and keeping them contained. When Biden, whenever he's come into office right off the bat, he let Putin open up his pipeline, but he shut down ours. And what president comes into office and on the very first day eliminates thousands of jobs by cutting down the Keystone Pipeline? That's ridiculous. It's just, and people are, oh well.
So times are different though, right? So everybody's got a voice. Everybody's in social media. Everybody can say what they want. You can influence elections. You can do a lot of stuff with social media. Do you think you could have handled being a pro wrestler in today's age with social media?
Social media is brutal. It's absolutely, it was hard enough, like going into a crowd of 20,000 people and them chanting 0, 0 and holding up signs that are like baby doll is a man and things. Right. It would be rough. It really would be. I'm glad I was where I was at the time because once I left the building and went to the hotel, shut it off, I'm good. Now you can't shut it off.
You know, growing up, there were two different kinds of news we were offered, at least back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s. You had legitimate newscasts, and then you had the National Enquirer. What I think we have today is that CNN's become the National Enquirer. Is there any kind of laws that you think we could put in place without taking away freedom of speech to hold media outlets accountable? They have to tell the truth.
Although you say National Enquirer, do you know that National Enquirer was the ones that busted O.J. on the killing Anna Nicole? Remember, they had the prints of the shoes, the Bruno Maglia shoes. Mm-hmm. And O.J. said that I wouldn't wear any shoes like that. Those are ugly-ass shoes. But National Enquirer were the ones that found him wearing the shoes walking across the field, the exact same Bruno Maglias that are in in that picture are the ones that had the footprints at the murder scene. So it's not always National Enquirer. But
So is that when it turned?
I think that it should. I think that
Is that when it turned?
I think that there needs to be accountability. I mean, you can't call someone a white supremacist if you know that they're not being.
How do we enforce this? How do we enforce responsible journalism, which is clearly not the case anymore?
I think that
it's running wild.
I
like
think that there's got to be some lawsuits. I think that like Kyle's got to sue them for billions of dollars and just bring them to their knees. And there has to be accountability. Like you can't report your feelings. You have to report facts.
Right.
And I think feelings have taken over the place of facts. And the lying and stuff. I mean, if the FBI has taken out 4 FISA warrants to spy on Trump with no verified information, who's covering that? Who's being accountable for issuing those FISA warrants when they knew that they were unverified? And when you do a FISA warrant, it has to say that there's verified information on there, and there wasn't verified evidence. And I can see where Trump was just, what do you do? I mean, if the FBI is investigating you and you know that there's no reason to be investigating you, you're probably a little bit afraid, because if they can go this far, how far are they going to go?
Yeah, but again, I think this has been going on in this country for a very long time, right? This isn't something new. They've been rigging elections since the 1940s, you know what I'm saying? I just feel Donald Trump could have probably been one of the all-time great presidents if he just could have calmed down a little bit, because he lost the majority of the female vote, I think.
Oh, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No. I look at his rallies. Look at how many people he could draw just at a drop of a hat, saying, okay, he's going to be so-and-so, and the people that would be lined up to see him, women were for him because they were giving, look at, like, the unemployment went down for women, wages went up for women. He empowered a lot of women, and especially, like, with blacks and Hispanics, the unemployment rate, people were getting jobs that were never able to get jobs before, and they were like really good paying jobs. But no one put that over. It was all Russia, 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 and Trump's a Russian spy, when we all knew he wasn't. Just let him do what he wants to do, what he's doing, because he made it a really good place. And then as soon as Biden gets in, he switches everything around, and now we're paying more than $4 a gallon for gas. Groceries are expensive, and Biden's saying, well, there's nothing I can do about it. Sorry. You did do it. You messed everything up just because you didn't want to do what Trump wanted to do.
I'm not going to argue that point. Speaking of that, Andrew Yang was talking about protecting professional wrestlers and making them employees and things like that. What did you think about that whole mess?
That's why we were professional wrestlers, is because we had that freedom, and we weren't accountable to anybody. And yeah, it was kind of horrible that we didn't have insurance and the whole things, but we're just different. We're not going to have anybody tell us what to do and the whole thing. So there's also the price to pay for that, and that we're not 9 to 5 workers, and we're not punching the clock in the whole yard. Plus, Andrew Young wants to give everybody $2,000 a month universal fund. So that's I kind of quit listening to what he said after that.
Could you imagine? Oh my God.
How expensive are groceries going to get if everybody knows that you're getting $2,000 a month? How much is everything else going to get expensive?
Well, again, if you have nothing to back up the funds that everybody's being handed, it's
just print some more money. What
is Bitcoin up at right now? $76,000 a share or something like that? $200,000, something ridiculous like that.
Well,
$20 for a bag of Ruffles.
Yeah.
What?
You're very smart. Very smart. Congratulations.
Didn't know that, did you?
Yeah, I did not know that. Beautiful and smart. And to your husband, not hitting on her, just stating the facts.
Yeah.
Don't beat my ass.
He's actually glad that I probably have someone else to talk to than him.
Look at the camera. There's a gun pointing at you right now.
Well,
watch it, Monty.
Eventually, I always say it, like, if, at this point, I could live with a man. As long as I don't have to have sex with a man, I can live with a man. It's,
All right, then.
Anyway.
Very good.
I have a whole house full. I've got a 7-year-old little boy. I've got my husband. I think myself and my cat, Cocorona, are the only 2 females in the whole thing. And a bunch of chickens.
But that's kind of a good thing, though, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
Come on, women, let's be honest. Women get a little
It's
catty.
true, because I really don't have any, like, female friends. I've got my daughters and stuff, but Yeah, I can't be around.
You know, I was
river.
thinking about it too with the neighbors, with the animals running across. You'll never get any stalkers. They can't get to your door. You got goats and ostriches and what was all those other animals? They just let them run across the yard.
Before Farrell's final question, I got to ask, did you ever have a fan experience where a fan just showed up out of nowhere at your house or your apartment or at a hotel?
Baby doll, you want to get you?
And you felt really scared.
No, I never
Outta
did
here.
because I think that everybody's like really, really afraid of me. The oddest experience I had was I was living in Charlotte, and I like to cook out. I like to grill.
Right.
So I've got the grill set up, and I'm cooking. The neighbor came from upstairs with a hamburger patty and said, "Can I borrow your grill when you're done?" Okay. Sure, go ahead, knock yourself out.
Wow,
But I
just
thought,
Comes
like,
over with a patty.
yeah, never had said a word to him, never knew him before that. Just some stranger showed up with a hamburger and wanted to put it on my grill.
Did he sit down and eat with you? You just left.
No, I finished up with the grill. I put some more charcoal down and I left, so that was it.
You go by. All right, Farrell.
That's rough.
Hit this icon with your
that's
final
as stalking
question.
as it gets, huh?
That is stalking.
Okay.
All right,
That's
brother.
different. All righty. All right, this is bizarre, but why not? What was my personal, I was wondering, what's Baby Doll going to look like when she comes in today? What's she going to wear? Blah, 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 blah. I was thinking, she comes in and she's wearing kind of my favorite look from her back in the early days when she was with Gino Hernandez. She had a leather jacket and she looked all badass and stuff.
Right.
So what was your favorite presentation for Baby Doll physically?
Well, I'm still wearing the black shiny pants, the black latex pants. I actually have on Johnny Bravo socks.
Yes, you were showing those to me.
Bravo.
Yeah,
And
Johnny Bravo socks.
this is how out
Oh,
of
very
touch-
nice.
And
Yeah,
I've
but
got
see,
my
you know.
daughter. My daughter is a musician, so I've got her Taste of Nashville.
Okay. Okay.
I thought Johnny Bravo was the Brady Bunch Johnny Bravo.
No, Johnny Bravo.
Johnny Bravo.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about
Boomerang,
this.
Bravo's
Boomerang
awesome.
cartoons, yeah.
Were you comfortable with the dresses
I don't watch
when they were
cartoons,
putting
Maddie.
Baby Doll in the dresses, or what was your favorite look? Over those years.
See, no
it
one
matter?
ever told me what to wear. Everything that
Oh, you
I
did
wore,
whatever you wanted.
I
Very
wore whatever.
interesting. Okay.
The only problem that I had was a lot of the rings were really high, so jumping up into the ring was always kind of it might have been a problem, because if you're wearing dresses or the whole thing, you don't want to
Hello.
show everything. They did not pay enough money to see my stuff, so
Right.
being able to get in the ring or having to roll around or the whole thing, so the black latex was really good. I think oh my gosh, the Great American Bash where I wore like the leopard spandex
there
and
we
the
go.
tuxedo jacket and
Okay.
Madonna gloves and the jewelry and the bow tie. That was pimp.
And one more real quickly. Who, in your opinion, who is the greatest women's wrestler of all time?
My daughter, Samantha Starr.
Look at that.
That was easy enough.
How's she doing? Is she moving up
She
the
just
ranks?
had her knee operated on. She
Okay.
had some damage whenever she was in high school. She was captain of the soccer team, and she was really got into kicking that ball far down the field, and she had some damage to the cartilage and tendons and ligaments. So she just had that all cleaned out of her knee. She's taking a little bit of a vacation, a respite, and letting that heal up. But she's good. She's really, really good.
Do we see her in the AEW or the WWE sometime in the future?
WWE just posted something where they're not accepting girls over the age of 25. So she just turned 29. So now at 29, she is too old to work at the WWE.
Could you imagine?
Freaking
I
Vince,
did not
man.
know
Vince
that,
is
dude.
losing it lately. What's going on with him?
Over 25.
I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. Any thoughts about the WWE Hall of Fame?
I never worked for him, so I doubt I ever will be.
She should be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
Are you kidding me?
I never will be.
Abdullah never worked in the Hall.
Actually, I was too good for the WWE. When you look at, I would have never fit in. My character would have never fit in because my character made sense, and they couldn't make a cartoon out of me. So I'll never be up there. Although I would like to say to Vince and to Stephanie and to Hunter, thank you for putting all of our stuff on network so that the fans can see.
Yeah.
Things that happened in 85 and 86 because my daughters would have never been able to see it.
Sure.
And now they can see their mom and see the work that I did. They've basically made me immortal. And I thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough. So if I never make it to the WWE Hall of Fame, they have WWE on Network and they have WWE on Peacock and stuff, and they've actually saved that for everyone to see. So
when Tully and Arn were making the move here, there was no talk about bringing you up there with them. They just took off on their own.
Nobody's ever. Plus, I'm almost 60. They've got all those young girls. Let them go. But I would like to say, Arn, thank you for mentioning me on your podcast every once in a while. I absolutely love it. Thank you, because he really puts me over. It's so
How
cool.
couldn't he? You're an icon in this industry. Anybody that's ever been around, you're an icon.
That's so weird because I never saw myself. I mean, my husband brings it out like you don't realize it. You don't see how they look at you, because he knows I'm like this big goober. I'm so horrible, but I'm just so thankful, and it's just so cool. Like whenever I worked, I never thought like 30, 40 years later that people would come up and want my autograph and tell me stories of them being 7-year-olds, like sitting on a couch and watching wrestling, and their grandparents getting so mad that I'm never watching that show again. We're never, and going shutting the TV off. But next week they're right back there waiting to see what happens. It was just.
I got to tell you, we had a friend who passed away years back, but he was a big NWA guy, and again, we were WWE, so there was like kind of like
rivals and stuff.
Yeah, like like sports.
Yeah, your wrestling is fake, but my wrestling is real.
It wasn't like that. It was just like fuck the brain busters. I hate them. That type of shit. But anyway, he was a big NWA guy, and he was a big fan of yours. And when the old NWA people come in here, it makes me think of him, because when Nikita was in here, how much he loved Nikita, and I remember how much he loved you, and I remember when Tully slapped you, how upset he was. And this was not a young kid,
and
right?
I was like a heel at the time. I was like big time heel, so to do that complete 180 and have that sympathy at the time, it was good. Yeah.
Unbelievable. We want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
This is definitely a high water mark for us. We were very excited to have you in.
Good, thank you.
We just thank you for what you've done for this industry and for the fans out there, and we hope that you do well the rest of your weekend.
I will. And the rest of my life. I just want to say thank you to everyone that remembers me and comes to the autograph signings and hits me up on Facebook and Twitter and the whole thing. It really means a lot. I know it drives my husband crazy, and Chad, I'm so sorry. But they're not all, he calls them hard dicks. But the things I go through.
I'm perfectly relaxed right now. What's going on here?
But you know what I'm saying. So
yes. I see what you're insinuating.
Not all guys are bad, and I like hearing the stories and the whole thing. And my character wasn't that way. I wasn't the Sonny or the Francine or the whole thing that put everything out. I was like the kick-ass, badass female that took care of her guys, and that's what I like hearing was those stories.
You are a first ballot Hall of Famer. I hope that Vince and Triple H and Stephanie do see that sometime very soon. Very soon.
You know what? I believe if, as long as they don't sell it to Peacock or NBC,
please,
could
Disney
happen.
The Mickey Mouse.
But we'll never know. But we'll find out.
Yep.
Anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I want to thank you again.
Thank you.
And Pharaoh, you want to send us out?
You've been watching Monty and the Pharaoh, and until next week, where I hopefully will not be under my blankie and nice and healthy.
He was sick last week.
Leave me alone. I've been sick my whole life.
He was under the blanket.
Yeah, something with a warm milk bottle.
Heat compressor on his head, whatever that thing is.
Compressor.
And he was moaning in his bed.
Yeah.
Well, guys are the worst for getting sick.
Oh, we're such sissies.
Awful. Try and have a period every month.
Oh, my God. What are you talking about? We never get one. We just have to hold our breath eternally. Well, this is the Pharaoh. We'll see you real soon. Later. Ugh.